What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Underdog Podcast. Today, I will be doing our Week 3 Power Rankings. Paul cannot join me today. We were going to record last night. It just didn't really work out. But I do have our combined rankings here, so we will be starting off with those here in a minute. But it was a crazy Week 2, man. A lot of weird, wacky, wild finishes. But we get into the Power Rankings here, starting with a new team at the bottom here, moving down 3 spots. It is the Chicago Bears. Listen, man. David Montgomery had a fantastic game on Sunday night. Other than that, it was just pitiful, man. They don't have the talent on defense to compete, even though they're well coached. Justin Fields has the least amount of attempts in the league right now, which is crazy. I think he threw 15 on Sunday night. He was he threw 11, I think. I think he was 7 for 11 for 70 yards and a pick, which is crazy. Why are you not using your best player on offense more often as a thrower? I don't understand it. Really, from the whole offseason forward, it was a weird offseason for the Bears. They bring in a defensive-minded head coach, a really good one, but I felt like they needed an offensive-minded coach for Fields. They don't get Fields the weapons that he should in the offseason, and now they have this incompetent offense like they did last year, and it's not really helping Fields develop at all. So then we move to our number 31 team, falling 7 spots this week. I think we were a little bit higher on them week 1 just because they looked very good, but it was the Seattle Seahawks. They came back down to earth this week. Geno Smith looked like the old Geno Smith this week. He was not good, playing against a very good front in the San Francisco 49ers, who, in my personal opinion, have the best pass rush in football right now, probably, with TJ Watt out from Pittsburgh. Their pass rush is insane, man, and they got so many different bodies to throw at you. Seattle couldn't keep up with that, and their stars aren't being used a lot. DK Metcalf's not getting the ball a ton. Tyler Lockett is getting the ball just from the standpoint of he's a better route runner than DK Metcalf and can get open. Their defense looks good, I'll give them that. They kind of stopped or held San Francisco's offense in check for the most part. I think they didn't really allow any big plays. It's just, again, lack of talent. And then they eventually figured them out and started scoring points. But it wasn't an awful effort from that defense, but Geno was not good this week. And another team falling 3 spots here at number 30, we have the Carolina Panthers. I think this team has the talent to even push for a wild card in a weak NFC team. They just haven't been able to put it all together. They've had a poor play calling from Ben McAdoo. Receivers, I think there was 3 or 4 key drops that last week for the Carolina Panthers. Their defense is good. They held, Cleveland in check in the second half for the most part, except for that last drive. And then they held New York in check this week, which is 19 points. I think once that offense clicks, you'll start to see Carolina become, win more frequently. They have New Orleans at home this week, potential upset there, but they have the talent on offense. And Baker's ranked worst in the league in QBR, but I don't think he's played that bad, to be honest with you. I just think that they really have to figure out what they do best on offense. And the fact that they're not using Christian McCaffrey is just kind of asinine. He's the best player on your team. He's being paid a lot of money. Use him. He's the best receiving back in football. Get him 4 or 5 catches to open up the game. Or something like that. I mean, I don't understand both the play calling and the personnel there from the Carolina Panthers. But we move on to number 29. Falling 3 spots again here is the Houston Texans. I think they put up a good fight against the Denver Broncos. Their defense looked really good. Derek Stingley looks really good. I think they lack talent, but they're able to play within that system, that Tampa 2 system of Lovie Smith really well, and force teams to make mistakes. I think you saw a bad interception from Russell Wilson thrown right to Christian Kirksey. They're going to force turnovers, I think, and keep their team in games, but that offense they didn't look great, man. They couldn't put the ball in the end zone. I think Brandon Cooks was phenomenal, but outside of that, hasn't really been great. Dameon Pierce got going a little bit in the second half. I think they need to rely on him more to take pressure off of Davis Mills. But I just think Houston's lack of talent on offense is very well exposed after last game. Their defense also has a lack of talent, but I think they're able to play within that system better. Lovie Smith's been able to get the most out of those guys so far in 2 weeks. We'll see if that continues throughout the season. At 28, with a miracle win this week, moving up 4 spots, is the New York Jets. I think this was kind of a fluke win. I don't want to take away anything from the Jets because it was an earned victory, I will say that, because they went down the field, scored a touchdown, got an onside kick, and went down the field and scored another touchdown again with like a minute and 21 seconds left. So kudos to them. I think this is a building block here for Robert Saleh. It's kind of like, hey, we can compete with these guys without our quarterback. They're holding on for when Zach Wilson comes back. I think they'll be a more competitive team after that. But this defense for the Jets is still very good. They lost some pieces and added some different ones. But they do look really good. And Joe Flacco absolutely cooked this weekend. I think he had like 300-plus yards and 4 touchdowns or something. So he was carving up the Browns secondary. Garrett Wilson, breakout game. Hopefully they can utilize him more and more in the coming weeks. I think Corey Davis had a couple of nice catches. They need to get Elijah Moore more involved as well. But overall, a good performance there from the Jets. We move on to the Atlanta Falcons, who move up 1 spot. They almost had that 28-3 comeback. I was cheering for that to happen throughout the game. But I think this team, what stands out to me in a difference between them and Carolina is coaching. I think the offensive coaching is very good, aside from the fact that they just don't utilize Kyle Pitts. Like, he's literally like a top 5 athlete potentially, like, in the league. I think he's the best athlete at the tight end position, no question. And they just don't utilize him. I think he has like 3 catches at this point in the season. Like, you have a monster tight end. Use him, please. Drake London, they have found a way to utilize. And everybody that said I shouldn't have had Drake London as high as I did in my rankings, I'm looking at you. I'm looking at all of you. You should look in the mirror and apologize. Drake London's been an absolute beast. Their defense played really nice in the second half. Like, they just didn't cover Cooper Kupp. But outside of that, they really held that team in check. I think their run defense, which I underestimated a little bit, came to play in the second half. They made some big plays. And if it wasn't for Bryan Edwards, who for some reason didn't jump, and he's 6'4", getting mossed by Jalen Ramsey, because Mariota put that in a spot where it should be only Bryan Edwards' ball to catch. If it wasn't for that, they probably would have won this game. So that's a confidence booster if you're Atlanta. Even though you're 0-2, you came back on a team that was the Super Bowl champs last year. So a big confidence boost there for Atlanta. We move into our number 26 team that got blown out on Monday Night Football in the Tennessee Titans. Look, man, I was really low on this team heading into the year. I said they didn't have the weapons. Ryan Tannehill's not a great quarterback. They had Derrick Henry, but he might be on the decline, which kind of looks like that right now, being honest. And then I think losing Harold Landry is a bigger deal than most people think it is, because he's what makes that scheme work on defense. And there was a lot of things that went wrong with Tennessee. I think there's 2 bright spots. Is Caleb Farley's on the field healthy, number 1. He got burnt a lot, but at least he's on the field healthy. It's good to see that. And 2, Treylon Burks was a beast in this game, man. He was getting open. I think he was their leading receiver in this game. I'm not too sure on that, but I'm pretty sure he was. So he looks like a good pick if they can continue to learn how to utilize him properly. But the Titans just, excuse me, their talent from last season has dropped off significantly, especially at the receiver position and on defense, man. They just don't look it. And then a team with another surprise victory, our number 25 team moving up 6 spots, is the Dallas Cowboys. Cooper Rush wasn't, amazing, but didn't turn the ball over, didn't make a ton of mistakes there. They relied heavily on Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard, who both had really good games. Noah Brown had a phenomenal game. I think that he was buried on this depth chart and now is getting an opportunity with Gallup hurt. I still don't really get why they're having Jalen Tolbert as a healthy scratch. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, but it's working right now. They're 1-1, so their defense, this pass rush is legit. I don't understand why Cincinnati was just letting Micah Parsons run unblocked. I don't get that. And DeMarcus Lawrence is still a beast. Oso Digizua looks nice as well. And then their secondary is playing a lot better than I thought they were. Trayvon Diggs, I gotta shout him out, man. He had a hell of a game. I think he gave up some balls to Jamar Chase as any corner would, but he was right there with him the entire time. I mean, he was physical, really not letting Jamar use that speed and that run after the catch ability. I think that was a big reason why the Dallas Cowboys won the game, is because he held Lamar in check. But then we move on to our number 24 team here, moving down 3 spots. It's the Cleveland Browns with the utmost collapse this weekend. Listen, I think they played well. Nick Chubb, phenomenal game. I don't think Jacoby Brissett was bad. I think that last pick was bad on the last drive, but he was just trying to make a play. And, when you're a backup quarterback trying to make a play, a lot of times it doesn't work. And he just didn't see Ashton Davis, in the, I think he was in a robber zone, and he just jumped it and, sealed the game. But I think the Browns will be fine. They still have a really good defense. I think they just were tired at the end of the game, and allowed the Jets to get back into it there. But I think the Browns will be fine. They got a tough game coming up against the Steelers on Thursday Night Football, so we'll see how they do there. Moving on to our number 23 team. Surprise 2-0 team in the New York Giants, man. Gets the job done against the Carolina Panthers. So, Brian Daboll, home run coach, hit. I said that from the beginning. Daniel Jones was fine in this game. Didn't really do anything like outstanding, but he made some plays to win. Almost lost in the game. It hit somebody in the hands. I think it was Brandon Smith or somebody like that. He threw it right to him on the last drive where they kicked the field goal to win. Didn't really do it. They didn't get Saquon going as much. I think for future success, they need to do more what they did in week 1 and really rely on Saquon Barkley to, carry this team. Their defense looked really good, though. I thought they were physical, much improved from last year. Their run defense, I think, was a lot better than I expected. Just not having that talent linebacker, I expected it to fall off, but it has still been pretty good. So the Giants 2-0 to start the season, against two of the, I guess teams that were kind of in the middle crop to start the year with the Titans and the Browns, but 2 good wins in my opinion for the New York Giants here. Moving on to my number 22 team here, the biggest faller of the week. Not necessarily because of me. Paul ranked them really low, like 28. I think I had them a little bit higher than that, more middle of the pack, but it is the Indianapolis Colts. And I realized they didn't have Michael Pittman. I realized Alec Pierce was also out. But to go to Jacksonville, a team that I personally had in the bottom 2 to start the year, and lay an absolute egg, which they have done the last 8 years in Duval, is crazy, man. They just looked like a Division III football team. Matt Ryan was awful. He might be the worst red zone quarterback in NFL history. I mean, I don't understand. When Matt Ryan gets to the red zone, he is a completely different quarterback. They could not get Jonathan Taylor running the football at all. Against a okay run defense in Jacksonville, Jonathan Taylor had 8 yards in the first half, I think, rushing the football, which is unacceptable if you're the Colts. No one really got open at all from this team. I mean, it was just really bad. And their defense just looks kind of meh this year. Gus Bradley really isn't proving anything. I was really disappointed in the performance by the Colts. I ended up taking the Jags in the spread, and thank God I did, because the Colts were just putrid. Speaking of the Jags, we have them as our highest riser here, moving up 9 spots to 21. I really was impressed with Jacksonville. I'm going to put my hand up. And I put my hand up for the Colts. I was wrong about the Colts. I'm going to put my hand up even more for the Jags, and I was wrong about the Jags. Trevor Lawrence looks really good. I was not low on him coming into the season. I think it was higher on him than most people. What I was low on was Christian Kirk. And excuse me. And it wasn't necessarily Christian Kirk the player, right? I like Christian Kirk as a player. It was the contract, the money they gave him. I felt like you could have, underpaid him, or not underpay him, but pay him less than you did and get more help. But Christian Kirk's been an animal, man. He has been an absolute beast for this team. Looked like a true wide receiver one. Zay Jones, who I personally liked, but I just didn't think that he really added much to this team. I thought he was just like a Marvin Jones copy. He has been a solid receiver too. And Evan Ingram has looked good at tight end. The real bust has been like Travis Etienne. Like, what has he been doing? And this defense looks good, man. They were physical. They were competitive, albeit against not great receivers, but still, they were very competitive against Indianapolis, and this is a confidence booster for this team. And Doug Peterson, I said, was a worst coach coming in, and that is clearly wrong. So then we move on to our number 20 team here, Paul's very own Washington Commanders, moving down 2 spots. It was a tale of 2 halves. The first half, they were the worst team in the league. No doubt about it. I think they had 27 yards and not a single first down. Second half, if they can play like that every game, they have a chance to win every game, for sure. They won that second half. I think it was 22-0 at halftime, and they won it 14-27. They won it 27-14 second half. You play like that, for the entire game, you beat Detroit. Carson Wentz looks really good for the second week in a row. Curtis Samuel looks healthy finally and a competent receiver. McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, they have the weapons on offense. Their defense is also very good. I think once they get Chase Young back, they're going to be even better. They're in this fight for the NFC East crown. I really think they are. They're in this fight for the NFC East crown. They just have to put it all together and play for 60 minutes. I think that's been their biggest problem, over the last couple of years, is they've played some really good football within, specific amounts of time. They just haven't played for the length of time of 60 minutes really well. Then we move on to the Denver Broncos, who are going to move up 1 spot in an uninspiring win against the Houston Texans. Look, man, I was very low on this team coming into the year. This was a team I was very low on. Nathaniel Hackett's clock management is awful. I'm going to talk about that first. The sequence, which you all know, is I think it was a 3rd and 7 or 6. They got 5 yards. It was 4th and 2. They run he was indecisive, run it down to 15 seconds, run the field goal unit out there, take a delay of game. And then I think it was it would have been a 59-yard field goal if he would have kicked it. They ended up punting. So you let them take a 64-yarder last week, but not a 59-yarder this week in Denver? I don't get it. The defense looked really good. They were pressuring Davis Mills all day long, and they were glued to those Texans receivers. But this offense, man, still has a lot to figure out. They are very indecisive. They don't have an identity. I think you need to just trust Russell Wilson and say, Russ, go out there and just light it up for a week and then see how it goes. Or you have to say, hey, we're going to, play through the run game, which I don't think they should do because they paid Russell Wilson all this money. So we'll see what happens there. But uninspiring win against, a bad Texans team at home. So then at number 18, moving up 5 spots, I think this is our 3rd highest riser, is the Detroit Lions, who had a very good week. Somewhat a tale of 2 halves. I didn't think they played bad in the second half. I think Washington was just playing with nothing to lose, and they were really lighting it up. But this team needs to run through DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift is a beast, man. I've been saying it for a long time now. DeAndre Swift's a beast. They just have to, Deuce Staley just can't be Deuce Staley and play, DeAndre Swift 65% of the time and Jamal Williams 30 and the other backs 5. DeAndre Swift needs to play 80% of the snaps. Please. He's so talented, man. He's so talented. And they just Deuce Staley. That's what I have to say about that. Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. A lot of people he was a polarizing figure in the draft. There were a lot of people that were he's a 3rd rounder, slot starter, nothing more than that. And there was other people that are oh, he's a 1st round, talent type stuff. I was kind of somewhere in the middle. I was I see the upside, but he's not the greatest athlete in the world. And he's proved me wrong, man. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a beast. That is going to be a piece there for the next, hopefully, decade plus for this Lions team. He's an absolute beast. I wish they would get DJ Chark more involved. I think he had 4 targets, no catches. That's a guy that I think they need to get involved more. So hopefully that was a time. Goff overthrew him 3 times on deep balls. So, Goff didn't play great. And also this Lions defense looks really good. Aiden Hutchinson, after having a quiet week, 3 first-half sacks, huge game for him. That'll build their confidence as well. Jeff Okuda's also looked very good as along with Aiden Hutchinson there. So then we have the Arizona Cardinals coming in at 17, moving up 2 spots. All I have to say about the Cardinals, Kyler Murray is special, man. And I've been critical of Kyler because he has not won the big games that he should, but he carried that team on Sunday. I mean, there's no way the Raiders should have lost that game. The 2-point conversion he had where he's just running around and then runs into the end zone was all Kyler Murray. Like, the defense I still think is awful. They came up with a really nice... Isaiah Simmons came up with an amazing play in overtime. Byron Murphy scoops it up to win the game. But I just, I have to give all the credit in the world to Kyler Murray, who's overcoming one of the worst coaches in football in Cliff Kingsbury. He's overcoming the worst defense, in my opinion, in football. And he beat a good Raiders team that before my season predictions, I was like, this team probably going to make the playoffs. And then, a couple of other things happened, and I ended up, having them right out of the playoffs. I think I have them as the 8th seed in the AFC. So they beat a playoff caliber team and a team that Arizona that I didn't think was going to be anywhere near the playoffs. And Kyler Murray just might take them there. Then at 16, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are moving down 3 spots. I think the game went about the way I expected for the Patriots and Steelers. I thought it was going to be a close game, hard-nosed defensive football game. It's nice to know that this defense is still going to be hard-nosed, tough to score points on without TJ Watt, and they got some pressure on Mac Jones, but I think that the Trubisky experiment's got to end, man. The interception he threw that was tipped and then Jalen Mills picked it, Mac Wilson should have picked that. I mean, it was right to him. Trubisky didn't see him. I think, it was probably the right decision to come out with Trubisky as your starting quarterback, but I think they need to go to Pickett as soon as possible. He's just not great, man. And he hasn't made a ton of terrible decisions. It's just like you can tell that the upside with Kenny Pickett there, with that offense isn't there, and you need to go, or with Mitch Trubisky, sorry, and you need to go to Pickett. I don't know. I just feel like Trubisky is not going to put this team in a position to make the playoffs. And then we have the New Orleans Saints moving down 1. I would have had them moving down further, personally. I think Paul had them a little bit higher. Jameis was awful. I know he's dealing with that back issue, but you will not see a worse quarterback performance probably for the next 5 weeks. He was terrible, man. The defense is good. It got chippy in this game as always. We saw Lattimore and Mike Evans get ejected from this game. But speaking of Marshawn Lattimore, man, this dude, if you're not putting this dude top 5 minimum, you're crazy, because he is so physical on the outside. He will put his hands on you the whole way up the route, somehow get away with a call, which most of the time he's not doing anything other than hand fighting you. And he uses the sideline so well as an outside corner. This dude has been underrated, ever since he had that bad season. I think it was his 2nd or 3rd year. He didn't have a great season. And he's been underrated ever since then. Marshawn Lattimore is the heartbeat of this defense. He is still very, very good. And I think this Saints team is still going to be good. They have a really good defense. They held Tom Brady in check. But how serious is Jameis' injury? We don't know. If it is any type of serious, they should just go to Andy Dalton and he will, be a, decent floor for that team. But we'll just have to wait and see with Jameis' injury. And also Kamara being out really kind of derailed this offense as well. At 14, we have the Raiders moving up 1 spot. They played a really great first half, and then the second half they just kind of fell apart. Derek Carr had a better game this week, but it wasn't anything special. Josh Jacobs was a battering ram in this game. He had a really nice game. I think he averaged over 4 yards a carry, 4.5 yards a carry, something like that. Renfrow, always reliable. Just Isaiah Simmons put, his head on the ball, and sometimes in that situation, it's stuff like that happens. I think this team's 0-2. they really got to figure out a way to, come back and, revive their season. And this week they have who do they have this week? Who do the Raiders have this week? The Raiders are playing the Titans, so an easier opponent, easier matchup. They should be able to bounce back, come away with a win. This defense played really good for the first half. Max Crosby and Chandler Jones were, getting a pressure on the quarterback for sure. They just, kind of fell flat in the second half. We move on to our number 13 team, moving up 3 spots. It is the New England Patriots. I'll be the first to admit, man, Mac Jones in that game was not good. He was not seeing the field well. He missed open receivers about 4 or 5 times. The interception to Devontae Parker was terrible. I understand giving Devontae Parker a chance, but Minka was lurking over the top, and I was like, how do you not see that? Little Jordan Humphrey was wide open over the middle on a dig. I was just like, damn, man. And especially it was right after we got that pick too, so I was really, really upset. On the 3rd and 2, where he threw it to Johnny when it got broken up, Jacoby Myers was wide open in the flat. I mean, he missed some easy throws in this game. Missed some easy reads. He was fairly accurate for the most part, but just wasn't great. Patriots run game came into play. Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson were great. Jacoby Myers, pay the man bill. Pay him and upgrade on the outside. Jacoby Myers is it in the slot. He was fantastic in this game. Only dude that really got open. Defensively, we still knew the Patriots were great. They were getting after Trubisky, forcing him to make some mistakes. Their secondary is very good. They were holding those guys in check for the most part. No one really had an outstanding day in the Pittsburgh receiving room. I think that this team's going to be competitive, man. They have to figure out, Mac's got to figure out offensively, what they do best. And they really, honestly, it's run the football, it's get Jacoby Myers the football, and don't turn the ball over. If they do those 3 things, they're going to win some games. And, personally, I think that this was a must-win game for them. I said that to, everybody I talked to this week. It was a must-win game. Their last, 7 weeks are very difficult, and they got away with this win. They got their home opener against Baltimore. It's going to be a tough game. We'll see who's going to come out on top on that one, but a good momentum boost here for the Patriots. Then with the 49ers dropping 1 spot, I had them in my top 10 personally. It just sucks to see Trey Lance go down like that. It's not ever what you want to see. You don't want to see a star athlete get hurt. But this pass rush is nuts, man. I mean, number 1 in football. They got Denver this week, and, we'll see how Denver does, but I don't really like Denver's chance against San Francisco at all. But this pass rush, this defense will put them through that. They will carry them through this time. I think we know what San Francisco is now with Jimmy G there. I think they're never going to be in our top 5, but they're going to be in this 15 at the lowest. I don't think they'll ever be that low, but 15 through 8 range, I think is where they're going to be. They're still a very good football team. They still run the ball effectively. I think they need to get Debo more involved. He hasn't been as involved the last couple of weeks, but we'll see what happens there. Then moving down 2 spots at our number 11 team, a team that really disappointed me this week in the Minnesota Vikings. I thought they were going to go into Philly and get this win, and they came out flat. Kirk Cousins in prime time is just awful, man. I should have known better, but I felt like they were just going to come out here and they were going to prove people wrong. They were going to be we're a real contender in the NFC. We don't have them moving down that far, but it was just rough, especially offensively. And people are going to say Jefferson got locked, which is partly true because when they put Slay on him, Slay did a very good job of keeping Jefferson in check, but they were bracketing him all the time. When he was lined up in the slot and it was Avonte Maddox, they had somebody over the top of him, or they had a linebacker on the inside bracketing him. Unless it was Darius Slay, Jefferson was not one-on-one the entire game. So Philly did a really good job of keeping him in check. Nobody else really took a stand up for that team. Irv Smith had a opportunity at a touchdown. Kirk Cousins was pressured dropped it right in the bucket, and Irv Smith dropped it, and I was like, I can't believe he just did that, because I'm a big Irv Smith guy. And they just didn't make the plays they needed to win this game. Their defense, I thought, was okay. Jalen Hurts just had a hell of a game. Best game of his career. We're going to talk about him in a little bit. But, I think that I don't think there's a lot of panic for this team. I think Minnesota's going to be fine next week. They just fell flat this week for me against the Philadelphia Eagles. We move on to the Cincinnati Bengals, who move down 5 spots. Another one of our, teams moving down a lot. This team, man, it comes down to coaching. Zach Taylor's not a great coach. Offensively, when you have Joe Burrow yelling to the sideline of don't go empty, and he's still calling empty, you got a problem. Because they could not block this pass rush of Dallas. Micah Parsons was getting free. I think he had like 2 or 3 sacks in that game, and I think 2 of them were like unblocked. It was crazy. So from that standpoint, you got to fix that. As a game plan, as a coach, you got to fix that. I didn't think Burrow was bad in this game. The stats won't tell you that, but I didn't think he was awful. I mean, I thought he made the right reads and stuff. It's just being under pressure a lot was it's tough. And they played awful and still found a way to fight back into this game and have a chance to win. And then their defense, who played pretty well all day, I mean, they kept, except for like that one long Tony Pollard run or catch, they kept them in check for the most part. But, they're going to have to figure some things out if they want to get back in this tough AFC race. It was a winnable game against Pittsburgh, which you're going to need divisional wins to, if you want to win the AFC North. And then a team in Dallas who, if Dak was playing, it's probably 50-50, but, they got Cooper Rush out there and you can't beat him. Come on, Cincy. Like, you got to get that win. Then we have our second highest riser here in the Miami Dolphins at +8. So I'm going to apologize for a couple things. One of them is not Tua. I'm not apologizing about Tua yet. I'm going to apologize about Mike McDaniel because I doubted this man. I think I ranked him 29th head coach coming into the season. So I'm putting my hand up and saying I was wrong about Mike McDaniel. This dude can coach football. He knows exactly what he's doing, and I was wrong about that. With him not having the experience as like an OC, because he only had 1 year of it, and with Shanahan really calling the plays, I think I underestimated him being around Shanahan and being a big creative part of that offense, which San Francisco has lost some creativity there. I was wrong about that part. And, this Miami offense looks pretty good, with the way they're doing it. And the defense struggled in the first half, came back, played a really nice second half. Xavier Howard should have had a pick 6. So, and a lot of people are going to be mad they're not above Baltimore. But now let's go to Tua. So Tua's first half was the Tua that we have seen, for the most part, besides like the last 5 minutes. The second half Tua was great. I think his decision-making was perfect, and he was able to make the throws, make the right decision when he needed to. The throw to Mike Gesicki was phenomenal. I mean, was it a little high? Yes, but that's exactly where you need to put in the red zone, throwing it over a linebacker in between 2 safeties. Throw it to where Mike Gesicki can catch it and nobody else, because Mike Gesicki is a fucking amazing athlete. So, chef's kiss on that one. The 2 to Tyreek Hill deep, I'm not giving that to him. I'm not giving either of that to him. So, the post route was a blown coverage on, I think they brought Marcus Williams down, or they were rotating somebody back up and they missed him, and he underthrew that and it was almost picked. And Tyreek Hill, then if it was a second or like a half second later he threw it, it probably would have been intercepted. So Tyreek Hill had to throttle all the way down to like a jog, caught it, and then got into the end zone. And then the deep ball on the go. So Jalen Armour-Davis was in off coverage hook zone. I think it was a cover 2. And he let Tyreek run right by him because he thought he had safety help. And the safety did not rotate over the top of Tyreek Hill. And so Tyreek Hill had a free touchdown. So I'm not giving him, I wouldn't give any quarterback that one personally. And the other one, it was an underthrown ball where Tyreek had to throttle down, and it was, lucky that it wasn't intercepted. But Tua probably played the best game of his career, but he was still and hopefully he can come in and build off that, because I'm not going to ever root anybody, against anybody having success. But I'm not going to sit here and say that I was wrong about Tua from the start. I still don't think he's I think he's maybe a borderline top 20 quarterback. I think I had him coming into the season at 27. So he's probably a borderline top 20 quarterback, like 23, 22 range. But he just, he was perfect decision making, but I just think that his lack of arm strength is going to show. And we'll see how real he is, Dolphins fans, because you got the Bills this week. So we'll see how Tua performs against the Bills. And the Ravens are a good defense. I'm not going to lie. The Ravens are a good defense. They just blew 2 coverages, which they shouldn't have blown, and let Miami get back into this game, in a game they should have won. Speaking of Baltimore, they're going to stay put here at 8. Lamar played awesome. Lamar's still probably the front runner for MVP. He was incredible, except for that one, drop pick from Xavier Howard. And they just, kind of stalled in the second half. They kind of were just running clock and, kind of playing not to lose instead of playing to win, which they should have just kept airing it out because it was working. Devin Duvernay return kickoff. People were saying that, like I said last week, that Rashad Bateman and Devin Duvernay aren't enough, and Devin Duvernay keeps making plays. Defensively, Marcus Williams, I've been high on Marcus Williams since he was in New Orleans. This dude might be a top 3 safety in football. I mean, the interception that he made on Tua, which was a terrible throw by Tua, I think it was into triple coverage, was amazing. The way he tracked it and just booked it to the sideline and picked it was awesome. And, I think the reason they blew that coverage was because Marcus Williams is moving around so much, and they failed to, account for that and then, adjust the coverage or whatever. So, just stuff they'll have to figure out. They've got New England this week on the road. Should be a good game. Definitely will be watching that one. And then moving up 3 spots is the Philadelphia Eagles, who really impressed me on Monday night. I mean, they played a hell of a game. So, Jalen Hurts, I am apologizing to you. I'm putting my hand up in the air, and I am apologizing because Jalen Hurts played a hell of a game, man. I mean, and listen, I think the statement I made where I said Jalen Hurts would, play well enough to get them into the playoffs, but convince them that they needed a better quarterback. It was like he played how he did last year is kind of how I was saying. Around a little bit of improvement, but not much. And that is, that statement, throw that statement in the trash. You can rip me for that one all you want because I was wrong. And Jalen Hurts was, when he was at Alabama, he was mainly just a run-first quarterback. He was an athlete playing quarterback. He got benched, against Georgia in the national championship game because he was an incompetent passer. Goes to Oklahoma, improves massively. I thought he personally should have won the Heisman. Gets drafted second round to Philly. First 4 games at Philly, just kind of looks like, again, an athlete at quarterback, bailing out a lot. Last year, made some big improvements, but was still a first, second read quarterback, bailing out of clean pockets, running whenever he could. This year, and last year he couldn't play in structure. This year he definitely can play in structure. So Nick Sirianni, I give you big amount of props to with that development there as well. And, A.J. Brown looks really good in this system. The deep ball to Quez Watkins, I was just like, wow. There's going to be one of those every couple of weeks, and it's going to be awesome. Because Quez Watkins is a guy that I've been cheering for ever since he came into the league. Great dude. Really good football player. So he got that going for him. Defense played really well. They shut down that Vikings offense. Darius Slay, man. Whoo! Don't call him Big Play Slay for nothing, but man, he was phenomenal in that game. I mean, he had 2 picks. He probably should have had 4. He was all over Justin Jefferson. He was a absolute blanket out there in coverage on that field. Then moving up 1 spot, we had at number 6, we have the Los Angeles Rams. Almost blew that game against the Atlanta Falcons, if it weren't for Bryan Edwards' absolute incompetency, they probably would have lost that game. But, bounce back week, they looked much better on offense. I think Matt Stafford looked much better. I think he's still, kind of streaky, but, was streaky in that game, but was able to, put it together, drives in the first half early and often. Darrell Henderson looked pretty good as their RB1. I think Cam Akers saw a tick up in snaps. And Allen Robinson was a lot more involved this week. So I think, I told everybody, don't panic on Allen Robinson. He will, he'll be fine. He played every down in the first half. And, they got him the ball this week. Aaron Donald's still a freak. Jalen Ramsey, hell of a play to end the game. I think the Rams will still be, a contender here in the NFC. Then we got the Los Angeles Chargers moving out one spot. I thought that they outplayed the Chiefs for the most part in this game. Just, bad luck at the end. Herbert got a little bit banged up in this game. They missed Keenan Allen a lot, but Mike Williams stepped up. He had a hell of a game. I think they need to get Eckler more involved. I think when they're, scheming stuff up for him in the receiving game, I think that their offense is more efficient and better. Defense played pretty well. J.C. Jackson looked good in his first game back after he had offseason ankle surgery. Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa were a presence as well. I think they're missing Kazir White, I think for sure, on the LA Chargers because they don't really have a guy that, is instinctive in coverage like he was at the linebacker position last year. Then we moved to the Green Bay Packers, moving up 2 spots. I told people not to panic. This happens every year with Green Bay. They just look like garbage in week 1, and then they came out and played a really good game here week 2 against the Bears. Aaron Rodgers looked pretty good. I think he was happy to have Lazard back. Aaron Jones was a beast. I'd like to see him get A.J. Dillon more involved, just kind of that 1-2 combo. A.J. Dillon being more of that bruiser, kind of wearing down defenses. I think I would like to see more of that. Their defense was excellent. Jair Alexander's pick, phenomenal, man. Dude might be the best corner in football. Probably is the best corner in football, honestly. God, Jair Alexander's a beast, man. I still don't understand why they won't blitz Quay Walker. I think that's like the one thing he did really, really well at Georgia, and they just haven't done it for whatever reason. So I think they need to figure out how to utilize him, and they'll be fine. Then moving on to number 3, Bucs are staying put. Rough game offensively. Mike Evans, will be suspended next week, but, he was out there. Russell Gage was out there, but they were missing Julio. They were missing Chris Godwin, 2 important parts of that offense. Jalen Darden, keep an eye on him. Number 1, 3rd-round pick last year from North Texas. I loved him coming out. If he's able to really get with the program on offense, I think he's going to be a hell of a player. There was a play, I gave him a jet sweep, and he didn't know it. And they were motion him over, hit Brady and Fournette, and he got it and turned it into a 15-yard gain. I mean, the dude's a beast, man. He just got to get his head on straight, and he'll be fine. Staying put at number 2, Chiefs. They played a pretty good game. Defensively, Chris Jones was locked by Zion Johnson. He didn't get around him at all. But they didn't really get a pass rush on Herbert until, the second half. Their defense played pretty good for the most part. I think, it's tough to guard Mike Williams with some of those smaller corners. And their offense looked good. Travis Kelce got body slammed by Derwin James, but other than that, they looked pretty good. They were able to, I think they need to run the football more. I think they need to get Pacheco and McKinnon and CH. I feel like they just need to do a rotation because they're all kind of similar. They're all kind of like jack of all trades guys, master of none. So I think they need to do that more often. And then I think, MVS should get going here pretty soon. Sky Moore's looked pretty good. So, in due time, I think it'll click for the Chiefs. And then I don't even have to say anything, it's Buffalo Bills. I mean, they dismantled the Titans. I ended up taking them. I switched it from Tennessee, and I'm glad I did because they made Tennessee look like a Division III football team. I mean, Tennessee came down after Buffalo scored, and they scored a touchdown. I was like, oh, maybe Tennessee can keep this game competitive. And then, the Bills were like, all right, enough of this crap. And they took off and absolutely demolished. I think Allen and Diggs might be the best duo in football. They really might be the best duo in football. So I'm not down the Bills, man. I mean, I picked them as my Super Bowl runner-up. I just felt like, Brady's last hurrah was going to be it, but might be regretting that pick because I don't think I think Buffalo's in a tier of their own right now. I really don't think there's anybody on the level of Buffalo. Offensively, defensively, they're so fundamentally sound. They have so many players. They don't even have Trey White back, and Dane Jackson got hurt as well. So, they're not even at full strength yet. And I can't wait to see what that looks like. But anyways, that is it for our Week 3 power rankings here. What did you guys agree with? What did you disagree with? Let us know in the comment section below and leave a like on this video if you enjoy the content. Hoping to do a Week 3 review. Just kind of looking at every game, our thoughts and stuff. Hopefully record that tonight, and that'll be out Thursday before Thursday Night Football. And then I'm looking to do something on Friday. I think I'm looking to do something on Friday. Maybe, I don't know yet, but I'm looking to do something on Friday. So I will let you know what that is tomorrow. But thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed, and have a great day, and peace.